The two of you need no introduction. Mike Tirico, Cris Collinsworth. I was talking to Cris right before we started here, and I asked him, is it just me, or is this particular NFL season beyond normal in terms of storyline, craziness, and why? That's what I want to know from you guys.
I feel like we say that every year. This feels a little bit different. If you think the two number one seeds from last year didn't make the playoffs, Detroit and Kansas City, the team that was the preseason favorite, Baltimore, to win the Super Bowl, one of the co-favorites, did make the playoffs. And you've got two teams in New England and Chicago that had these massive turnarounds. So yeah, you say it every year, but it feels like every year the silliness factor just keeps going up and up and up.
And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's an era change a little bit here, like in '83 or something, you know, and you had Dan Marino and John Elway and those guys come in all together. And it happens on occasion where this new group of young quarterbacks come into the league and all of a sudden they're the number one seeds. But sitting back in the background are the Josh Allens and the Matthew Staffords and the Aaron Rodgers. And you go, all right, is this just playtime through these 17 games? All right, we're finished fooling around. It's time to turn it over to the big guys now, and they're going to go win the Super Bowl. Or are we going to see this new era of quarterbacks take over?
See, I don't think kids are afraid anymore. There used to be this mystique about, well, you have to wait your time. I think our whole generation of Instagram, phone, get things to me right now. I'm going to go on Amazon, order it, it'll be here tomorrow. I think everybody's mentality is, sure, I can do it right now. And I think some of these young players are finding themselves in that spotlight and ready for it as opposed to having to do a slow boil.
Cris, you led right into one of my favorite topics, which is, and I wonder if this is a flaw in the league or if it's actually one of the greatest things about the league. And I'm not sure myself, which is that if you have a star head coach and you have a star quarterback, the other players are less important in football, it seems.
I hate to admit that, but that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, because I was one of those other players, you know, and playing receiver. But I think that's what the game has become because of the rule changes. So now you can't hit the receivers going down the field. Offensive linemen, I don't even know what holding is anymore. We see people wrap both arms.
You said that. There's a guy who's like this, like, that's okay. I'm like, that's not okay.
I don't know what it is anymore, but what we're doing is protecting the quarterbacks with the receivers down the field. I used to live in fear of getting hit right there. Sure. Boom, out cold. You can't hit them there anymore. So now if you're telling me the only place that you can hit me is in the back or, you know, on the side strike or zone. Whatever, a strike zone, like sign me up. So now we're getting some NBA power forwards playing receiver, going down the field, jumping up and making these phenomenal plays.
Is this a feature or a bug? The idea that you can kind of, if you've got it, you're almost in the playoffs every year. If you don't got it, you can be the Cleveland Browns and have an amazing defense and you're on the outside looking in.
I think it's great. Go get a quarterback. Go find them, right? It's the inexact science. So many get drafted in the first round, and the success rate, no matter how much brain power, analytics, the naked eye test, no matter how much of that you have, it's 50-50 if the first round guy hits or doesn't. And that creates the whole cycle of excitement, because now in March, is there a free agent quarterback out there? Who can be the next Baker Mayfield, a reclamation project that leads us to the playoffs? Then it's April and the draft, and guess what we're doing? We're talking about the NFL every single month.
But you also have the Mike Tomlin effect, which is in order to get one of these quarterbacks, you have to have a bad year. You've got to be drafting in the top 5 or 10 at least to have a chance, right?
Give them our stat.
What's that? Go ahead.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. All right.
The last time that they picked top 5 in the NFL draft. Any guess? Here's a hint.
A long time ago.
It's somebody you know.
There's somebody on Fox television. Terry Bradshaw was the last one.
That was a long time.
1970.
Yeah.
So that's, what, 56 years ago? 56 years ago. But to Chris's point.
But what happens then is, because they're always in the top half of the league, they're never getting a high draft pick. They're never getting a young quarterback. and they don't have a chance to do what you're talking about. Take a great coach, a great quarterback, and go win another Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that to me, that seems a little bit of a flaw in the league, but maybe there are ways where you can get around it. I mean, I will say, and this will be the last question on this one, but you do see you have the Texans and the Broncos and the Seahawks, which do lean on their defense and not their quarterback. It's just that if you broaden it out a little bit, it's Mahomes, it's Brady, it's Josh Allen, and it's like...
Yeah, but Brady gone, and guess what? They've had 2 quarterbacks take them to the playoffs.
Oh, that's
and
right.
now they may have found the guy in Drake May.
Maybe
right?
they did.
So all of a sudden, those young guys come around, and you can find the right guy at the right time. But New England did have to go deeper in the draft. They had a bad year.
Number 3 pick.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's happening in different spots in different places. And to me, that's the joy of the league, that your team, if your front office gets it right, you can get it right.
I want to talk about the craft of broadcasting. We just saw this big Ravens-Steelers game. I think you got a lot of appropriate public attention for what a great job you guys did on that broadcast. Do you feel it in the moment? Do you feel like we nailed that one? Or is it one where it kind of feels the same and you don't really know what the reaction is going to be until after the fact?
My first thought is, if I can get till noon the next day without being fired, that was a great broadcast. That because it does. Sometimes you don't know what you said. And it's funny, Mike and I were going to the airport together after the game, and we had gotten a lot of nice texts as we were going out. And I said, do you think it had anything to do with us, or was it just we had a great game?
Yes.
Because when you have a great game, people remember great games, right? And because they get caught up in the emotion. And I think you get to go along for the ride. But honestly, I thought Mike crushed the biggest moments of that game. And I'll give you one example. At the end of the game, Tyler Loop, a young kicker, was out there, and Mike had done the research on this guy, knew his life story. So there's like this 2-minute lull, and Mike gives you this whole story of this guy's life as he's going out for the biggest kick, and he's trying to make this thing and save the team. So ultimately, when he missed the kick, it wasn't some kicker that missed the kick. It was a 22-year-old kid that we knew something about.
Yeah.
And the emotion of that moment, you don't recapture with anything else in sports. And that's part of the brilliance of what he brings to Sunday night.
So is that a learned skill, Mike? Is that something that you've picked up over the years?
Well, storytelling's been a part of working in the studio and features, but Cris mentioned it earlier today, and I hadn't really thought about it this way, but he's right. That's kind of the DNA of our company because of the Olympics, because the Olympics is about storytelling, and you've been a part of that, covering the Olympics for many, many years. And I think that is our first nature on Sunday nights. You've watched football all day, and you watch great broadcasts, and we're friends with almost all the people who do this, and we're all buddies and text and all that stuff.
Are there people you like in particular that you are trying to emulate, or is it kind of, you're your own guy at
I think
this
it's
point?
emulate. I think at this point you know what works for you. I think the biggest mistake, being involved at Syracuse, my alma mater, where there are a lot of young broadcasters, the one thing I say is, know what sounds good to you, but do it in your style and your personality. Because the one thing you can't do on the air is be fake. You can't be somebody else, because people will see through that at some points. Try to be yourself as much as you can, and that's what working with him is one of the great benefits, because that's Cris. Cris is the most curious, life-loving person you could ever work with, and he sounds like that on the air, and he brings that out in all of us. So I think you just have to be that person who knows you're confident in what you're going to do and do it in your own style. But I love listening to Joe and Troy on Monday nights, love listening to Kevin and Tom Brady on the Sundays, and same with Jim and Tony, and Kirk and Al on Thursday nights. I love all these guys. Ian Eagle's one of my best friends. I love listening to J.J. Watt as they've come along together as a great partnership in their first year. I don't think our business has ever been done any better. I really don't. Top to bottom, so many good broadcasters, so many good games. It's just nice to be a part of it.
As the years have gone by, for both of you, have you consciously altered your style of broadcast to try to get more younger viewers in, try to appeal to the sports bettors out there, try to involve more analytics as analytics have gained steam?
I think for Sunday night, it's a different animal. I really do. I always picture the same thing in my brain. It's a family with the son, the daughter, the mom, the dad, and grandma all sitting around the television. And it's going to start on Sunday night. but Grandma's going to get itchy to watch something if we don't tell her stories or give her a reason to get engaged in that football game. So I don't think that we can really do what others may do at 1 o'clock on Sunday, because that's going to be a football centric. There are 6 games on and people of fantasy football and they're betting or what, the whole thing. I think Sunday night has to be more of a show and has to be more of a story that has like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's when it takes great announcers to handle the job that Mike has. Al Michaels has done it for a long time. Those guys that really understand that we're sitting on the couch, man. We're all just sitting around. And I'm like that. When I sit around on the couch and watch other football games, I'm yelling at the television. So there's nothing different about what I do. But for Mike, I think his ability to hit the high notes of the broadcast dead on. I mean, not over the top, not understated, like dead on. Those are the magic moments of what he does and hopefully what Sunday night does.
Mike, this will be your first Super Bowl. Will you be nervous? Do you guys still get nervous before doing this? Or
I was confident I wasn't going to be nervous. And then we did a media presentation here in New York, and Cris started talking about how nervous you can be with 120 million people watching. That's the first time I said, wow, maybe I'm going to be nervous about this.
But it's not like your normal broadcast gets nothing. You're still talking to 25 million people or whatever.
It's the same feeling when I was doing Big East basketball in the 90s, or hosting the Super Bowl pregame a few years ago, or doing a Sunday night game with Cris where there are 30 plus million people watching. There's only one person listening on the other side of the camera. You can't broadcast to 100 plus million people at the same time and think they're all absorbing. Somebody's up getting a drink. Somebody's hanging on your every word. Somebody's talking to a friend. You just try to talk to one person, no matter how big or small the audience might be, and connect with them, because they're all hearing the same thing in different ways because of their involvement and attachment and what's going on in their surroundings. So is there the buildup different for a Super Bowl? Of course it is. And having not gone through it before, I don't know if it'll feel any different. I'm going to try to treat it the same way and just try to be relaxed and enjoy and talk to people. And hopefully my partner gets me through it if I am nervous.
The magic is, too, though, you also know that every single syllable that you utter in that game will be a meme or somewhere on social media because somebody's not going to like it out there. So you just have to man up. You just have to go out there and go.
That can work to your benefit too. I've got 2 kids, and whenever they talk about that OBJ catch, they still say it's in the conversation, which is your line in the moment. It can be a positive.
I've had plenty of lines in the moment that I'd like to reel back in, too. But I think that's what you have to do with the Super Bowl. You just have to go for it. You just go for it and call the game and live with it. There's no take-backs. It's like we've done a lot of them. Some of them we've done better than others, and hopefully we get to go with it.
Last question on the craft of broadcasting. How are you preparing for it? Is this something you guys do in the off season? Is it something that you're doing on a week by week basis where it's just because the rosters change over, but it's a lot to cram into 1 week every week?
For the Super Bowl or for every
for
week
everything,
to week? Yeah, I think you keep the league, at least for me, keep the league constantly on your radar and just continue to monitor. But you don't start taking the shovel and digging deeper and deeper on a team until you get to that week. Because so much changes. You could invest all your time in a team that you're going to see on week 8, week 1, 2, and then they lose 3 offensive linemen and they're constituted so differently. Teams we see early and then see late, you go, is this the same group? They've had to flip because of injuries. So I don't think you ever let the NFL off your radar. For me, doing multiple things, but once you get to that week, you spend the whole week on New England or the Chargers or the Ravens, whoever it is, and you try to know that team as well as possible.
It was interesting. John Madden, I asked him the same question one time, and he said, Cris, if I did the same 2 teams 2 weeks in a row, he goes, I would take every note that I had for that first game, tear it up, start over, and rebuild it. And that's right. It's really a final exam that changes week to week, and that's what you do. It's a 7-day-a-week job, and when it's over, I go to the combine. I start studying the draft. You study free agency, because otherwise there are people out there that are doing that. Oh, it's the old Larry Bird thing that I used to shoot 9 hours a day. And why did you do that, Larry? Because I was afraid somebody else was shooting 10 hours a day. And that's really part of it.
Last question. Pin you guys down. Super Bowl prediction for each of you. AFC and NFC team.
I think it's going to be a great game with the Olympics to follow on NBC.
Oh, God.
I know that. I have a hard time thinking that Philadelphia, because of the recency, has a great chance to get back there. And in the AFC, I wish I had an idea. I just absolutely don't.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's a long shot. I think it's a team that we haven't seen there in a little while. And I don't know exactly. I think Seattle is secretly so good on defense that maybe.
Not so secretly.
Yeah.
But it was secretly when Cris predicted Seattle.
Thank you very much for that.
5 weeks left in the regular season.
Yes, more so.
He did in a room with a bunch of witnesses, and we just kind of laughed at him, and now he's laughing at us.
We'll see. But, like you could see a Houston or a Jacksonville. Yeah. I mean, it really could be one of those years, because I don't think there's a big gap between the top and bottom of these playoff teams now. And will we get the veteran quarterback or the young quarterback? There's just so much intrigue going into the Super Bowl.
You can talk yourself into every team in the AFC.
Pretty much. Yeah. I did that.
And I've done that too.
I call that hedging.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Hedging.
Yeah. I'd imagine maybe NBC in the league kind of hopes it's not Jacksonville or Houston, but you never know.
No,
maybe,
you know
maybe
what?
they don't mind.
Tennessee played St. Louis in the Super Bowl, and the ratings set a record.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 34. The Super Bowl is...
It's its own animal.
Underdog proof.
Yeah.
And underdogs in some way get people to the TV for a different reason. That was the one I'm like, this one, they won't break a record. And it turned out to be one of the great games in Atlanta at Super Bowl 34, and the ratings were right there. So.
Also, Nielsen changed the way it did measurements, so now everything is a record, so it'll be almost guaranteed.
Good.
Right?
I leave the big data to you and worry about the other stuff later.
Mike and Cris, thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Appreciate it.